So it is streaming on YouTube, which is how I'm going to share the link with you guys. It is going to be a private link for the moment, so don't worry about that. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started. All right, can y'all, I guess, can someone just unmute themselves and let me know if you are seeing the main PowerPoint screen? Or
yeah,
if
we can see it.
Okay, just wanted to make sure y'all don't see the presenter screen. All right, so welcome to our first online class. And I want to start out by going through what we'll be talking about today. So we're going to talk about what our new normal is, what that's going to look like. We're going to establish some norms for online class and how we're going to go about it every time we're here. Review the syllabus and calendar changes, talk about Teach One reflection, and then if we get to it, we'll cover lesson framing today. If not, we'll do that on Thursday. So again, at the moment, the plan is to stick with Zoom unless I let you guys know otherwise. And the only other platform that I'm considering is Teams. Recordings are going to be posted on Blackboard, and all of the communication is going to be done via Blackboard. So what that means is you guys need to turn on your notifications for Blackboard. You're all here because you get my communication, but if for some reason you don't get Blackboard announcements, you need to go in and change that setting so you can start to receive them. So my goals for you guys as we go through this class is personally, given the circumstances that we're in, I'm really excited to see you guys, but at the same time, this is not at all how I had planned for the semester to go for us. This isn't what anyone had in mind or in plan the last time I saw you guys before spring break. I would have been really shocked had I known then that this is how we would be conducting our class. So I wanted to really share with you guys how I want to approach this as an instructor. I want to be able to provide you guys with sensible flexibility. What that means is, life circumstances, whatever situations you guys are in. If for some reason you're missing a deadline or you're missing a class, I want you guys to feel comfortable to where you can tell me what's going on and we can figure out a plan to where you're still successful at the end of this semester. I think it's really important that we all remain solutions focused because there is a lot of anxiety. There are a lot of things that are beyond our control in what's going on right now, but anything that, any situation that you guys are in, anything you need, I want you guys to let me know and let's figure out a plan for it, because it goes with the last one. Really want to cultivate a sense of community for all of us over here. Teach Houston's always been like a family. When I was a student and I entered into the Teach Houston program, although there were only like 8 of us, it was still a really close-knit family. And I think that even though there's so many more students now, that still applies and it's so important right now. Providing you guys with informative and timely communication. So again, I've been sending you guys emails over the past weeks and really want to continue to do that and make sure that anything you need, you have a way to get that communication and a way to communicate back with me as well. something else I want to say about the goals. I'm going to do this a lot. When you guys start teaching, you know, when I was planning this instruction, I was thinking, okay, so I've got to like figure this out. I've only ever taught in person, but now I want to model, you know, best practices in online teaching. And then it occurred to me that maybe, you know, the most important thing that I can model for you guys is not necessarily how to do an online instruction classroom, but rather how to show empathy to your students in difficult circumstances. You can have big situations happen like hurricanes or, you know, situations like this, but you also will have students who are just going to be in difficult life circumstances. And if there's anything that you can take away from this course and how we're going to go about it is how important it is to have empathy as an instructor, and how important it is to use that characteristic when you are working with students on deadlines and working with students on their assignments and all of that. So really that now more than ever is my goal for you guys to take away from this class. All right, so I feel like it's important that we set up some norms for ourselves, how we're going to go about an online instruction. And, you know, you guys are sitting in a lot of classes, and so you have an idea of what works well and what doesn't. So one thing that I will say is I'm going to start class by muting you guys. And the way that I want you guys to really approach communication, do you guys see the raise hand option? Well, I muted you, so you can't say yes, right? But if you see the raise hand option, just kind of give me a thumbs up because I'm looking at your screens. If you look under where participants are, do y'all see it? Okay, awesome. So you should see the raise hand option, and you should also see the chat box as well. I want you guys to use the chat box mostly for questions because it can get really overflowing and hard to keep up with if we're all just communicating via the chat box. But what I want you guys to do is use the raise hand option just like you would in class whenever I pose a question, and this is going to be a little awkward at first, but we'll get used to it, for you guys to share your thoughts and your ideas as we have a discussion. So let me start with that. So far in terms of norms, I've talked about using the raise hand function and using chat for questions. Can someone raise their hand and share with me what other norms we should have in the class? Any other norms you think would be helpful for online instruction? You've sat in a lot of online classes. What might be a good way for how we communicate in online instruction classes, or just in general in online instruction? Okay, Khadija. Yes.
Probably to, like, this is kind of obvious, but to like have your video on and be professionally dressed, and like, does that make sense? Have your video on that way that you can see that we're actually paying attention, just like Jewel said in the chat box.
Yes. Yeah, so absolutely everyone's paying attention to the screen. You know, don't be in front of the screen and obviously on your phone or, you know, having another conversation. That's where the mute option works out really well. Because the part that I do understand is you guys are at home. You're not necessarily in the most professional setting. You might have siblings around and pets around and things like that. So I do get that there are other distractions that we need to be aware of. Any other norm that you guys can think of? Yes, Brian.
There we go. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. I'd say, just appropriate participation from everybody as well. If a question is asked or, um, you'd like us to discuss something in the chat, it would be best practice for everybody to like actively participate.
Yeah, I love that, Brian. Please don't leave me hanging, you guys. Wait time is a little more awkward online than it is in person, is what I'm finding. So yes, please do participate in class so that we can actually get the most out of our discussions. Yolanda?
Hello. I would say try our best to, I don't know if synchronize is the word that I'm looking for, but just that we're not talking all at the same time. And I know sending in the chat when we're discussing things, if we all send things at the same time, they're all just gonna get missed and we're not gonna get the chance to read what everybody else said.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Yolanda. And for that reason, I'm hoping that, the hand raising function can work out really well for us. And again, using the chat really only for questions, because if you want to say something, I want to hear from you. So just raise your hand, just like you would during class when we're having discussions and you want to say something, and really keeping the chat more like a parking lot for questions. Okay. Any other norms you guys can think of? Those are really good. Okay, so we can always come back to this one. We can circle back to it if we go through class and we're like, we need to establish this or that as a norm, then we'll definitely come back to it. All right, so here is what has changed on your syllabus. Mostly it's all the stuff I've told you guys right now. Everything's taking place to Zoom. Should we switch to Teams? At the end of this, I'm going to ask you guys again and throughout the week to see, like, is there any benefit or preference that you guys have? Because I really want this to be something that serves you in the most effective manner. Flexibility will be provided on attendance and due date, provided the situation and timely communication. So, please, please, please let me know if you can't attend class. Let me know if something's going on in your situation. You don't have to share anything you're not comfortable with, but I really do need to know if there is something going on that's preventing you from being the most present that you can be in the class. All right, so our calendar changes. So if you notice this week, there aren't any assignments or deadlines going on, but starting next week, we get into it. Next week, we actually have a Tuesday and a Thursday reading check. We have 4 more reading checks coming up. If you have not led a session, you need to go on Blackboard and see if your name is listed next to a session. So there was one person, I think Amy, there was something going on where you weren't able to lead a session. So I've placed you on a different reading. And if you haven't done one and you're not listed on a reading, you need to let me know of that as well quickly, so that we can get you on there. Leading the reading discussions and participating in them is a part of your grade. So if you look on your Blackboard, your updated syllabus, you'll see on there that the discussions are a significant part of your grade. And even though it is, ideal to do the discussion in person, I think it's still going to be really good experience for you guys to lead the discussion through this online manner as well. Because you never know, there are teachers, all across HISD who are teaching online this week. So you just never know what the situation might call for, and maybe you guys might teach some online classes as well. So still a really good experience to have. You notice there is still a Teach 2 going on, and there are still observations listed on here as well. So as I told y'all, we are not going into the school systems the rest of this semester, okay? For all kinds of reasons that I think at this point you guys understand in terms of schools not being open. And even if schools happen to maybe open in May, which at this point I don't think will happen, it's still too late for us to go in, and the teachers will have all kinds of things to deal with without having an additional visitor in there. So the way that we're going to do this, as far as your observations go, I'm going to show you guys what that assignment looks like now for observations 2 and 3. I actually have videos of teachers doing instruction in the classroom. So you're going to do your observation by watching a classroom instruction take place, and there's prompts and questions that you're going to answer about them. Then as far as your teach goes, you're still going to design a lesson, and we're going to do different breakout groups, giving you guys practice teach time. And as we go forward, I'm going to talk to you guys about how you'll actually be able to record yourself teach. But when you come to your reflection for Teach 2, what I'm going to want you guys to do is actually look at that second lesson that you've made and consider how you could change it to an online lesson. Because that's the reality teachers are in right now, is they are having to take their regular lessons and curriculum and turn it into virtual teaching. The other reason why I think this will be useful is because all over teachers are sharing lessons that they have that are like good online lessons. And I think that this will be an opportunity for you guys to contribute to the community in that format as well. Is, you know, if you can come up with some good activities to do online learning for certain TEKs, those can be shared out, and that can be really useful for parents and teachers right now. So that's really majority of what the due dates are, right? They're around Teach 2 and they're around observations. Then you have your final equity project, which we will discuss in the weeks coming up. And then even though it looks like there's a lot of stuff due over here, the equity project related stuff we'll talk about, it all goes together. And then you really just have your final reflection due, and then your observations due. Something that I don't have on here that is due that last week as well is your professional task log. So you guys know that the society is doing a lot of online professional development. And I'm also going to host an online alumni panel as well. And that's going to be another really good opportunity for you to get PD. I am not looking for community service. If you've done it, great, you have that. But I'm not going to count it against you if you weren't able to get a community service in, just because it's a little tough to do those events right now. Okay. Any questions about any of the stuff I've shared so far? Just raise your hand if you have a question or post it in the chat. All right, Hamza. Oh, did I mute you? Sorry.
Hi, I was just wondering, so do you want 3 PDs now, like online or?
So essentially you guys had the 2 PDs and 1 community service that was required for this class. So if you weren't able to do a community service, then you would have the 3 PDs. I think given the circumstances that we're in, I'm gonna go ahead and accept even just 2. Okay, so just because nothing about this is our regular routine. So I will accept having just 2 society events on your sheet for this. Okay, I want y'all to aim for 3, but I'll work with you if all you could get was 2.
All right, thank you.
And Yolanda.
For our Teach 2, we were able to get a topic. Are we using that topic? And if we didn't, are we just going to randomly pick a topic?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Yolanda. Some of you guys were able to get topics from your teachers. You're welcome to use those. But what we're going to talk about really on Thursday as well is I'm going to show you guys kind of a menu of what you can do for Teach 2. One of those options is going to be that you pick out the TEK that you want to do. I do want you to stay at the grade level and content area that you were assigned. So if you were high school bio, high school chem, high school physics, I want y'all to stick to those areas. And then pick a TEK that you want to do a lesson for. If you've got one and you've already started planning it, great. If not, we'll work in this order. Something else that's going to be on the menu that will be an option for you is, you know, we've always talked about bringing in lessons, topics that are relevant to students. And there's a lot of, especially for bio, there's a lot of learning that can take place from the COVID-19 situation that we're in right now. A lot of stuff about viruses, how they spread, exponential growth, just a lot of things related to that. And so if one option that you'll have is if you want to bring in anything from the current events into your lesson. I leave that as an option because for some of you, you're like, I don't want to think about COVID-19 any more than I already do in my life. I don't want to sit and make a lesson about it because I'm trying to get my mind off of it. And your students might feel the same way. So that's why it is an option for you to bring that context in. But yes, outside of that, you will pick out your TEK. That answer your question, Yolanda? Okay. All right, Rashmi?
So for the PDs, do we still have to get it like signed in a sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, and you know, you guys correct me, Brian, Yolanda, if there is something that the society is doing for that.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Yolanda.
we send in the newsletter, and let me just, I know it's Benito, Caitlin, Fatima, and I can sign the
Okay.
task logs electronically. But when you email them, we prefer that you send them either as a Word document or a PDF, and that you have put the details of the event already. Because if you just send it blank, they're not going to sign it for you.
Okay.
And on the newsletter, it's the emails of each one of them. And if not, I'll just post them on the website as well so everybody can refer to them.
And Yolanda, thank you for sharing that. So I saw that email come through, I think it was last week. Can you kind of summarize for us what the society, how they're moving about?
Yes, so Fernanda has moved all the, I'm just looking for the email, all the PDs to online PDs. Each one of them, if you go to the website, I've posted the slides for everything that's left in March. So every slide has a QR code that you can scan, and there's a tiny URL link that you go and RSVP. So you're going to attend, and it's got the ground rules for that. It's going to be on Zoom. This is what we expect from you. These are the ground rules for it. And then at the end, it has also the email for Benito, Caitlin, for Fatima, and for me, that we're signing task logs when you sign it. So we have, I believe today there is one, and there will be one. I know there's one on the 30th. I think there's 3 more left in March. And then we have some more in April. We have Alan apparently is going to host another one in addition to the Socratic teaching. And then we have the panel that you will have as well. So there will be plenty of opportunities, yes. But they'll be hosted at the original time that they were scheduled for. So if they were scheduled from 1 to 2, they'll be on Wednesday from 1 to 2. Like the time and the day has not changed. It's only that they'll be online now.
Okay. Very cool. It's good to know. Thank you, Yolanda. Appreciate that. Any other questions? Yes, Brian, go ahead. Just unmute yourself.
There we go. Yeah, so like what is the status right now as far as PPR testing goes? Because I know like for taking the qualifier, it would have been at UH.
Good question. So as far as the status of PPR testing goes, the last that I've heard from Ms. Ikova is they are holding off right now on doing any kind of online testing at the moment. When that does change, she will send out an email and let us know what's going on with that. So, you know, those of you, I think there's, I know Yolanda, you're in MTS right now. Is there anyone else who is also in MTS? Okay, so for those of you who are not Yolanda at the moment, you will be able to take your qualifiers when you get to MTS. I think that might be the route that they go for it at this moment. Testing is still being figured out. Yolanda, have you heard anything different from your MTS class? You're on mute, hun.
I heard from Ms. Akoba because I had mine scheduled a lot earlier because I have to also take my content exam. And she said that I have to push them till April. So I have my qualifier, I think April 8th, because it was supposed to be that Friday after spring break. But she asked that I push it as far back in April as possible because testing centers are not open as of right now. And since the score that we get is only good for 45 days, if you are to take it to, like, you could take your qualifier tomorrow if you wanted to, because you're doing that remotely now. But if testing centers don't open within 45 days, you're going to have to take it again and again and again until testing centers open.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, testing centers are really contingent on the CDC guidelines about how many people can be in a place. You know, it was 50, it was 10. And now, as you guys may have seen this morning at the press conference with the mayor's office, the city of Houston does have a stay-at-home directive that's been issued. So I really, you know, don't expect the testing centers to open till possibly the summer. And so we just don't want you guys to be in that situation where you've taken your qualifier and your 45-day window is running out for it, especially those of you who are not about to go right into student teaching. Those of you who are, Yolanda, as you know, you've already got the communication. They're going to work with you. The state is also aware of what's going on. You know, the thing about this whole situation is that everyone is figuring things out as we go. No one really knows when this is going to end or how long this is going to take. So everyone is kind of waiting for more information to put out some directives, but we're definitely not the only ones in this situation. It's impacting pre-service teachers, teacher candidates all over the country. So as we get more information, we'll let you guys know about that. Good question. Any other questions that you guys have? Those are all really good questions. Okay, so your observation 2 and 3 assignments. So let me go ahead and share with you guys. I'm actually gonna take y'all to Blackboard now and show you guys what is going on in terms of where you can find your assignments and all of that. So give me just a second over here. Okay, so you guys should be seeing my Access UH screen. And then you are now seeing my Blackboard with my millions of courses. And here you are. All right, so let me know if you guys aren't seeing Blackboard because that would be awkward. But essentially, when you get into your Blackboard now, you're going to go into field-based assignments. So you go to field-based assignments and you go to observation reflections. I will say that some of you guys got your observation 2 in. If you got your observation 2 in, fill out the regular assignment that's there for it, okay? Because you got an in-person observation in, you can just fill out the regular assignment. Those of you who weren't able to get it in, if you notice, I have over here, it says choose one video and answer the corresponding reflection question. So there's a 45-minute video on first day of school lesson, developing procedures. The other one is a second day of school lesson. And there are prompts specifically to that video that you'll see there. So in a Microsoft Word document, I'll want you guys to let me know which video you chose and answer the prompts like you would in a regular observation reflection. Then you have observation 3. And in this case, I want you guys to do all 3 videos because you've got a 13-minute, a 10-minute, and a 25-minute one. These are all science lessons. And I want you guys to answer questions, again, regarding each prompt. So the way that you would do your Microsoft Word document, you can organize it: classification, adaptation, the question, your response to it; chemical reactions, the question, your response to it. So you can go ahead and submit that for observation 3. If you notice that the due dates for them, observation 2 is due on April 7th and observation 3 is due on April 17th. You work at your own pace with that. You are certainly, it's not like you're waiting on scheduling an observation or anything like that. So get it done when you can get it done, okay? And so that is observations 2 and 3. Any questions about that? Okay. And then the other thing that I'll show you guys as well, when you go under field-based assignments, you have your observation reflections, you have your teach analysis presentation. So really you have your teach 1 analysis, and your teach 2 reflection is actually a discussion board assignment. And we'll look at that once we get into teach 2, but it's going to be done differently. And then you will also have your lesson plan. So it says lesson plan 2 folder has been updated. When you click on that, you will see that there is the planning guide, rough draft, and final, and all of those due dates have been changed based on the pace that we'll be moving at in this course. If things move faster or slower and other adjustments need to be made, again, we'll communicate that and go through that together. Any questions about your assignments that are coming up? Okay. All right, so in a moment, what we're going to do is I'm going to place you guys into breakout groups, which essentially, if you haven't used breakout groups in Zoom before, oh, let me share this with y'all. If you haven't done breakout groups in Zoom before, what that essentially entails is I'm going to place you guys into a different room inside of Zoom. And I will kind of go back and forth between the rooms. You and your partners in that group are going to work on the assignment that I'll give you. The assignment that I'm going to give you is, if you're in breakout group 1, you're going to think back to your teach 1. Before y'all left for spring break, like the last 2 minutes of class, were actually us talking about how your teach 1 went. And that was just a, hey, we're going to see each other again next time. So real quick, how did it go? All right, great. And now here we are like weeks later. And I think it's really important not to lose those reflections and that learning that we got from that process. So you guys are in group 1, you're going to talk about something that went well. Group 2, something that did not go as planned. 3, something that you want to include in your next lesson plan. So like actually the way that you made your lesson plan itself. Maybe there's something you want to change about how you did your handouts, or just how your lesson planning in general went. And then group 4, something that you want to improve on in terms of your teaching skills. So your actual in the moment teaching, something that you want to improve on in what you did with that. So maybe it's questioning, maybe it is eye contact, teacher voice, time management, you know, those types of things. So you and your partners are going to discuss the prompt that you guys have, and then we'll all come back together as a class. I'm going to give y'all like a 1-minute warning in your groups. You're going to come back, and then you guys are going to actually present what it is that your group discussed, okay? This is going to be our first time as a class doing breakout groups, so this is good practice for us to see how it goes as well. Now, it's going to take me a moment to put you guys in your breakout groups. So for that reason, what we're going to do is we are going to take a break, okay? I'm going to give you guys a 5-minute break. So say it's 10:40 right now. We're going to come back at 10:45. During that time, I want you guys to take this quiz. This quiz is generally a quiz about all the changes that are taking place. And it just kind of lets me know you're aware of what's going on with this class. In the meantime, I'm going to place y'all in breakout groups, so you'll be moving around. So go ahead and get this link down. It's tinyurl.com/CI online quiz. CI online quiz. All right, and we are now on a 5-minute break, and so y'all can take your quiz and just be back at your screens at 10:45. Don't log off because I'm putting in you in your groups, but you can turn off your videos if you want to. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the chat as well. right, you guys, so everyone is back here now. I saw that our something that did not go as planned group was the one that was kind of still discussing things. So looks like there were things that did not go as planned. The way that we're going to do this is the folks who are in each group, going to have you guys share out, a summary of what you guys talked about, what came through. And then after each group does that, I'm going to open it up to the rest of the class so that you can add to it. Like, oh, by the way, here's, something that went well for my lesson that, wasn't mentioned, or just an opportunity for all of us to reflect on each topic together as well. So I'm going to start with the first group. And as you guys are ready to speak when you're presenting, just unmute yourself. And then when I open it up to discussion, just raise your hand. Okay. So first group, something that went well, go ahead and unmute yourselves and tell us what you guys talked about.
So for my teacher, she said that I had good time management. I walked around, I came organized, all my handouts were there, and like everything that I wanted to do pertaining to the lab was present. And I kind of ran out of time at the end, but she said it was okay because I over prepared, and she said that's always better than being under prepared.
Yes, very true, very true. What else went well for you guys in that group?
So I think the common theme among us was that we were all pretty well prepared as far as like materials goes. Students were also really engaged, which was great, and we all more or less stayed on track as far as just getting through the lesson. But I do think that the biggest thing was that we were like super prepared, and that's because we had like the entire detailed lesson plan, and in each section you have to talk about what materials you need and what you're going to be doing while the students are doing something else, and what questions you're going to be asking. So I definitely think that the lesson plan came in handy because we had to plan out every single material that we were going to need. That way we were sure that we had it.
Yeah, very true. And that, I always tell students, like, the whole winging it approach, it just doesn't work when it comes to your planning of your lesson. Like, sometimes you have to wing it, like, oh, there's a fire drill, and now I have to like figure out how to adjust my lesson, and you have to be flexible. But it's so much easier if you go in prepared with the stuff. You feel better, everything just goes so much more smoothly. Anything else that you guys in the group had on what went well?
For me, I felt like the engagement with the class was really well. All the students seemed like they enjoyed the lesson and like they were interested in the lesson. So that was something that.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. Yeah, that's wonderful. So I guess now I'll open it up to the class as well, and including anyone in that group. Do you guys want to share something that went well in your lesson? Just either unmute yourself or raise your hand. Yolanda, go ahead.
In my case, I think the engagement of the kids was pretty good, and I think it had a lot to do with my mentor. Apparently, she had another visitor. I don't know if it was Teach Houston or some other kind of student in her class last semester, and she didn't like that there was no relationship between the kids and the visitor. So for my very first observation, she had me put together a slide, and she introduced me to the class, and she was like, oh, she's going to come visit us, and this is why I expect from you, us in when she teaches or when she's walking around and all that. So when I came to teach, the kids still knew who I was, and they were very engaged and active during the lesson. So, and respectful, which was really good too. So I really like that.
That is huge. So much of your interaction with your students also reflects on the type of relationship your mentor teacher has with their students. And I think that, that tells you a lot about how much that mentor teacher values that building relationships piece between the teacher and the students, because that just makes the whole lesson so much better.
Yeah, and I was telling my group that one of the things that didn't go well in my MTS teaching had to do with that, with the fact that the kids had no respect and like they literally did not care for everything, and it didn't make the lesson go very well. So I really value that Mrs. Oakley had made the time for me to like introduce myself to the class and make sure like set her expectations and let me set my expectations before I even taught them. So that was really good.
That is really good. And what a great way to kind of see the two differences as well. Yeah, very nice. Khadija, something that went well?
So for me, like actually, so what Yolanda said was kind of what I was gonna say in regards to building a relationship. The kids, like apparently the last person that taught their class last semester or something, they called her the Cougar Paw lady. And so when I walked in, when they were walking in and I was handing them their seating assignments, they they were like, "Oh my gosh, the Cougar Paw lady's here," and it was really sweet. And like, yeah, okay, but like it wasn't that respectful, but they, ended up becoming very respectful and very engaged. But my main point was that my classroom management I felt really went well. They weren't speaking out loud. They weren't. They were raising their hand. They were engaged with the lesson. I had stations, so like they did not have a problem of knowing where to go and when to leave. And, even when the timer went off, I would say something, but I didn't really have to. Like, I knew that if I hadn't said anything, the timer would have been perfect and they would have gotten up and gone to the next station. So I really felt like classroom management was a strong.
That's awesome. First time teaching a high school class. You guys, timers, all these things that we kept stressing on, it all pays off, right? So that's really good. And as far as getting names placed on you by students, Cougar Paw lady, pretty good, pretty good. Anyone else want to share anything else that went well? Greer?
My mentor teacher said that I did a pretty good job at encouraging students to participate and getting them actively involved.
Good, very good, very good. Was there anything specific you feel like you did, Greer, that kind of helped you in getting kids involved?
Whenever I was asking them questions about certain definitions of what they would define certain terms, whenever they answered, and then I would bring up the technical definition, and they were pretty close to being right, I would have the rest of the class give like an applause or clap their hands.
Good, very nice. It's a good strategy. Anyone else do anything that made things go well for you in your lesson, or something else that went well? Rashmi?
I ran out of time at the end, but I did do like a crossword, and it was supposed to be like prize based. So I brought candy, and the kids really, really got into it. There's only 5 minutes left, and it was like kind of a long crossword, but a lot of those kids got through it when they heard
Oh
there
my
candy.
gosh.
So they were like throwing out, I was like yelling out answers, and then the like few kids who really wanted the candy were able to like get through it and stayed like the extra 2 minutes to grab it. So it was really cool to see them. And they knew that information. It was like answers you have to think for. So it was really cool to see that they were like, they did know it and they really wanted the candy. So
yeah. Well, what I like about that whole strategy is you give them the candy at the end, so you get them all hopped up on sugar, and it's like, go to your next teacher, bye. That's great. All right, guys. So the next group, something that did not go as planned. If you were in that group, go ahead and unmute yourselves and just kind of take turns sharing what you guys talked about.
So I was in that group and we were all talking about different things. And I remember my big one was time management. I had timers, so like the stations went well and stuff, but I didn't realize that day they had some early dismissal. So all of the class periods were 10 minutes shorter. So I lost about 10 minutes in my teach. And with that, there were so many just like technological problems. When I walked in, or when I got there, there was a new student that I didn't have a name tag for. Like it was that morning, she got an email saying, "Oh, they're switching her to your class." So there was an extra student and I had an extra packet for her. So I was prepared for that, but I didn't have a group for her. I didn't have a name tent for her. So I feel like she was really smart. So like she got everything. It was just, I felt like I really couldn't help her because I didn't even know her name and I couldn't put any time, if that makes sense, because there was no time to really, create that relationship with her. And then my laptop stopped working. So that station was basically just looking in the textbook and it was very boring. So I had to facilitate it. And so I was talking to my group and I was telling them that in my recording, the station 6, the one that I was next to the entire time, wasn't in the frame. So for about 20 minutes of my recording, I'm not even in the frame. You can hear my voice in the background, but I wasn't even there. And that, because of that, I wasn't able to go to the other groups and see what they were doing and if they were doing well. So that's one thing that I think I want to learn from this is the whole having backups, making sure that, you're, just like Jewel said, over prepared rather than just prepared.
Yeah. And that's a very real situation because when I was teaching, all of a sudden in the middle, a new student transferred into the school and is just, or got switched into my class and they're walking into the middle of the class and I'm in the middle of a lesson. And so those types of things, they do happen. Yeah. All right. Anyone else from the group?
So during my teach, I tried to avoid direct teaching just because it was a lab. And so when I went and I did my lesson, there was a few students that kind of strayed. They didn't really listen to when I was explaining instructions. And then when we started the lab, actually, they were confused. And I remember having to go to each table and explain like a different part of my instructions. So I know I could have explained it better, but I also think like my mentor teacher recommended that I do a direct teach of the lab first, but I didn't really agree with that. So it was kind of frustrating when I tried to like do it my own way, I guess, like a little bit differently. And then I saw that it didn't really work. And so I think that's something I need to work on is just not actually doing the direct teach like he was doing the actual lab completely before they even did it. So, but I think being more clear in the instructions and involving them more when we're reading them and going through the packet.
Yeah, I think that's a really good takeaway, Amy, because there are things that you can do, like, kind of like, I even like to sometimes just kind of give like a quick, like 1-minute quiz or something like that on the directions or something, like a scavenger hunt type thing. And it doesn't have to be anything formal. You can just kind of like say like, okay, can someone tell me what do you do when you get to this step? What do you do when you do this part? And that puts it more on them to be aware of the stuff. There are moments when you'll have to give direct instruction, but it can still be interactive. It can still involve students. And I think that a big process is kind of figuring out, well, how do you give that interactive lecture segment when it comes to that in your lesson? So I think it's good that you're thinking about that. Very good. Anyone else from the group want to share?
A problem that I ended up having was the certain part or certain things that we were working with, the solenoids or the electromagnets, they weren't powerful enough to get results or good enough results for the students to work with and understand. So once it got to the elaborate part, I ended up having to change my elaborate and instead get a really powerful magnet and demonstrate what they were supposed to be doing or what they were trying to get. And I tried making it interactive by asking questions about certain things that we were observing, but it still came out a little confusing for them and was a little difficult to do, but it was like a last second change up.
Yeah, okay. And materials and labs, that's again a very common thing to run around. So I think that knowing how to respond to that is also very good. Who else was in this group? Anyone else from the group want to share?
I did have a problem where like my students were actually just like too smart, and they would be like, they would like answer the questions without waiting for me to call on them, or they wouldn't, like, they'd raise their hands but still blurt out the answers. And I would like tell them like a couple times, like, hey, wait, one at a time and stuff. But they like, I don't know, they just like wouldn't listen. Like, they were really good and they were like engaged, and like incredibly engaged. But I think that like that was why, you know.
Did you feel like, Hamza, they were kind of trying to like show off that they knew the information, kind of like show off to each other or to you that like they already got this?
Yeah, basically, like there was a lot of prior knowledge that they were like, oh yeah, we know this from before. But then there's also stuff like that, like we were going through. They're like, oh yeah, I got it, and they just kind of wanted to like show off, basically. Yeah.
And this was pre-AP, right?
Yeah, it was.
And that is a very important thing to run across in pre-AP classes, where you kind of have the opposite issue, where there's more of students trying to find a mistake in what the teacher's saying, and also trying to show off in front of each other, like, oh, we already know this, and, you know, just like really trying to do that. And so there are strategies to work with that with pre-AP students. One, of course, is realizing what level they are at. So with pre-AP students, more than ever, it's so important to do the pre-assessments to see where they're at, what they know, and then adjusting your instruction based on that. But at the same time, having that management of respect in place as well. So, you know, still having the guys, I still need you to raise your hand, all of that. And that, Hamza, is hard to do going in as a guest teacher, first time ever with them. That's something that takes some time to build that with them. But it's like a different level of classroom management that goes into place. People often think, oh, if the kids are smart, I won't have to do any classroom management. And that is, and smart really isn't even the term. It's more that they just have mastered the information already. And so you're teaching them at a different level, and that's something that takes another set of skills as well. When you get to student teaching, you guys are actually going to have some seminars that are around those topics as well. But I think it's good for you to kind of see like, okay, so this is a different scope of management that I've got to put into play with these kids. So it's good. Anyone else want to share something on that topic? All right, we're going to go ahead and go to the next one. Elizabeth, we'll come to you in just a second, but I do want to get to the next group, which is something you want to include in your next lesson. So if you're in that group, just go ahead and unmute yourself and share out.
So what we talked about a little bit was, wait, sorry, can y'all hear me? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
But was at least for me, like more questioning like strategies, because I know like a lot of my students weren't I didn't have that relationship with them yet, so they didn't want to really participate when I asked questions. So maybe if I had like, you know, asked a little more like questions and like in a different way to add that into the lesson, so that way they can have more chances to talk and stuff.
Yeah, very good.
I didn't
making that more interactive.
And I didn't mention this in our group, but I did want to add, like my mentor teacher also said about the direct teaching, and I do want to add a little more of that so that they did get a little more information out of some of the stuff. But I didn't want to do like the full lab in front of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you want to avoid that with safety stuff, especially with chemistry. I do know that there are things where it's like, okay, I've got to show them how to do this piece because this is not where inquiry comes in. It can go really bad. So this is where it's a safety thing and they need to see the steps of how to do it. But you want to definitely fight the urge to just like show them everything so that, you know, they don't have any discovery at all. You want to avoid that. So good call there. What else?
In my case, I don't want to say like the same problem, but the same situation as Hamza had. We were in the same class with the same mentor. So at the beginning of my lesson during the engage, I feel like I was giving them plenty of wait time and it worked really good. And then we got into the explore and they were so excited and they were all working. And I was like, oh, they're a lot more engaged than what I thought. By the time we got to the explain, they had mastered everything already. So they were not shouting answers, but a lot of hands were up, and I found myself that I was not waiting on them anymore. Like I would see a hand and I would still try to call on people who hadn't answered questions yet, but I wasn't giving them time. So I would finish my question, and by the time I finished, there were hands up already. So I would just look across the room and call on somebody instead of waiting and giving them a second for them to think. So I started with it, but then I feel like I got so comfortable with the fact that they were so engaged. I was like, okay, cool. And I was afraid that if I started waiting, they were just gonna stop being engaged and wanted to participate. So I just went with it, but I think I would like to include it more.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, definitely tough to do it, especially when you have really eager students ready to answer, but it's still good to definitely keep that in practice. Jewel?
I also had the similar situation as Yolanda, except mine was kind of opposite. It's because there were only 10 students in my class, so I wasn't offering enough wait time because it was awkward to just sit and face 10 students instead of sitting and facing like 30 students. So I limited my wait time, but at the same time, like I felt like maybe they weren't able to have enough time to actually think about the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right on with that. Yeah. Anyone else from that group want to share?
Yeah, so for me, it kind of relates back to the last question. I wasn't even actually able to do my teach. So I did my second observation and I was supposed to come back later on in the week, but the whole water boiling thing happened. So then by that time of next week, they were on a different topic. So I had to change what I had to teach, which led to us going on to spring break. And once we got onto spring break, they weren't allowing any guests to kind of like come in because of this. So, but what I was able to do was I was able to kind of build that relationship with them because I was able to observe more than 2 times, if that kind of goes into saying.
Yeah, and let's definitely have a separate conversation about that situation as well, Elizabeth.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely that's something that did not go as planned. A lot of stuff like that happened this semester. Anyone else in the group who wants to share? Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next group, something you want to improve on in your next teach. If you're in that group, go ahead.
For at least for me, my questioning wasn't as good as it could have been. Like for some of my students, like I said, I asked my questions and they like got it. They gave me an answer. I was satisfied, so I went on. And then some groups, I would ask them like basically the same questions, and they'd be like they would kind of like sit there, and like my mentor teacher kind of had to like help me. She was like, she told me, yes, the students, like she said, they're smart. They know the answers. You just have to like say it like a different way, or maybe like lead them kind of like into the answers a little bit, because like they just like weren't getting it from like the questions I was asking. So I guess like improve on my questioning would be good.
Yeah, the follow-up questioning is a really good strategy to work on, where what happens when you ask and they're quiet and you're like, did they just not hear me? Do they just not want to talk to me? Or is there a different way that I can phrase this question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What else? Something else that you guys want to improve on? Okay. So thank you guys for sharing those reflections about your first teach. It's more fresh in our mind now as we go forward into teach 2. And just some course reminders, if you still have any assignments from teach 1, the reflection, anything that you haven't turned in, go ahead and get that in ASAP into Blackboard so that we can start moving into the other assignments that we've got going on. Yolanda, I see you've got your hand raised. What's up?
Yes, I never turned in my lesson, the first teach final, because you asked for a second elaborate, and I told myself I was gonna ask if we need to include it even if we already taught, and then I think I forgot to ask and I never did. So I have it finished, but I don't have the plan B in there. So
Yeah,
do
I
I
still want you to do it. I still want you to do it. Because even though you've taught and you taught based on your plan A, I think it's still a good practice for you to come up with a plan B for that.
Okay, got it.
Yep, absolutely. Still want you guys to get those assignments in if you haven't. Jewel, you've got a question?
I don't have a question.
Okay.
Okay.
Rashmi, I don't know if these were old hand raised or still.
I was just gonna ask where we were supposed to send our videos. Were we supposed to just email those to you, or?
No, so for your teach reflection, if you look under your teach analysis presentations, you can on Blackboard post your teach one reflection presentation on there. So the best way for you to share your video clip is with, I would say like a Google Drive link or a YouTube link. So if you guys haven't, go under teach one analysis presentation. It's a slides thing that you need to do. Go ahead and get that turned in. Khadija?
I actually had two questions about that. One, I did, because I accidentally turned in something else and I emailed you about it. I wasn't, because the video is so long and it's embedded in my PowerPoint, it is a Google Drive link. I wanted to ask if you had gotten that email. I emailed it last night.
I've gotten your email, and so can you still resubmit that on Blackboard?
It won't let me. It keeps.
It won't
saying,
let
oh,
you? Okay, so I'll go ahead and delete your first attempt so that you can put it on Blackboard.
Awesome. And then the second question was that we only are submitting 2 minutes, or like the 2 minutes that we're analyzing, correct? Or is it the whole video?
No, you're only analyzing the segment of it.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. Greer?
I'm trying to get the video, but I haven't been able to get video footage off of the recording. I've only been able to get audio from it.
So the audio should still let you do some analysis with it. Was it the SiteLab camera?
Yes.
So check with some of your classmates. They might be able to help you if you're around Campus Greer. SiteLab is open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you can actually go over there and they should be able to help you out with it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Jewel, did you have another question?
Yeah, so pertaining to the reading discussion, and can you go over how that's going to work again?
Yeah, so for the reading discussion, we've got discussion starting next week. So when you look on Blackboard, you'll see if your name is listed as a discussion leader. If you haven't led one, you definitely need to make sure you get on there. And I know, Joel, you are on one of the upcoming ones. The way it's going to work is you and your partners are still going to create the slides. Y'all are going to share screen in order to have your slides with your questions on there. And you guys are going to basically like pose the questions to the class. Folks will raise their hand or you will call on them. And then that's how you're going to be able to do it. If you need to do like breakout groups, I can give you breakout group capabilities as well, so that you can put people in groups and give them some time to discuss the questions if you want to do it that way.
Thank you.
And then I see on the chat, there's some people who are giving, Greer, just FYI, on the chat, Khadija and Yolanda are giving some suggestions on how to upload the video. Any other questions? Okay. All right, guys. For the discussion leader, they can also share their screen if they make the presentation. Absolutely, Brian. Yeah, that's what I want you guys to do. I still want the leaders to have slides prepared and be ready to share screens with that. All right, guys, so this was our first remote class. Can I just get y'all to kind of share with me, how are you guys feeling at this point in general?
I mean, I would rather be in person, but this was pretty good with respect to getting all the information. And obviously you're a phenomenal teacher, so that's just that. But like in the sense that we were able to see your screen, and it wasn't really hard to talk and hard to make groups and things like that. So I think it went well.
Good, thank you, Khadija. Anyone else? How are you guys feeling?
It's really great getting to see everybody again. I've been here in my house for like 2-ish weeks now. So I'm just like, oh, it's so good getting to see other people's faces that are outside of my walls.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Brian, are you obviously you're at home, are you in the Houston area somewhere?
Yeah, I'm in North Side
Okay.
by 45.
Yeah. Yeah. So are
It's
you
been
able to
me
go
and Meredith
outside at
yesterday.
all and get some fresh air?
I mean, occasionally I will go to like the grocery store to get groceries for either me or for my grandparents and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll just go drop it off to them outside.
Yeah.
And I'll go like outside in the front yard to walk my bearded dragon, but that's about it. Other than that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I know this is hard. Like I feel myself getting cabin fever too. I am going outside all the time, as much as I can, and you know, taking my daughter for walks and stuff like that, because it is weird being inside this much. And now my husband's working from home too, so I have a coworker now. He just started working from home from Friday, so that's kind of weird. Because I was like, I had the whole office to myself and the kitchen to myself. So now my break room has someone else using it. So it's weird. It's different. Yeah. How are you guys doing? Anyone else want to share? This is just like a mental health check. I just want to hear from you guys just to know how you are.
I mean, it's definitely much nicer to pretend that I'm not wearing my pajamas for an hour and a half after 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand. Same here, Jill. Same here.
I'm with Jewel on that one. I was actually looking forward to waking up and like getting ready and like, yes, I need something normal in my life. And my boyfriend teaches in KDISD, so like every once in a while I can hear him like having conferences with the teachers. I'm like, they're so frustrated with like the curriculum and the teaching itself. So it's like, oh, please get me out of here.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Yeah.
I wanted to share real quick. I thought this was like super cute. What I live like right next to an elementary and middle school. It was really annoying for me yesterday because I had an exam, but it was super, super sweet. All the teachers like got in their cars for like social distancing, and they went through all our neighborhoods and were like honking the horns to like say hi to their students. Super annoying for me and my brother because both of us had exams, but super, super sweet.
Yeah. You had an exam yesterday?
Yeah, I had my organic 2 lab. We're the only lab section that didn't get a midterm in before we had to do all this. So they had to give us one, so all of us were on the same page.
That's really interesting. How are y'all's labs being conducted now?
My TA hasn't emailed us yet about that, but what I've heard from other like sections, basically the TAs are doing a video of the lab for us, and we have to watch it, collect data, and then still do our lab report.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I didn't even think about labs at this point. By the way, I saw the question come up on the chat, and let me make sure that I have the right information for you guys. So on the calendar, it says that we've got a reading check on the 31st, which is next Tuesday, and April 2nd, which is next Thursday. So that's when the next readings are. So on the calendar, I've got Elizabeth and Jewel doing the class in classroom reading discussion next Tuesday, and then Kathy and Maria doing the classroom management one next Thursday. So if you guys look under course readings, you will see who is set up as the leader. So Amy, I've got you on April 9th for our reading check that week. And then that's also what's on the updated calendar. So
next Thursday, there's no, so this Thursday, there's no reading.
This Thursday, we don't have one. I didn't want to put it on anyone to put together a reading discussion on such a short window. So we're starting from next week. And so we have a next Tuesday and Thursday one. Okay. Yeah. So Elizabeth and I guess there was someone, and Amy, I hope that answers your questions. Anyone else? How are y'all doing? This is just, if you guys need to go, that's okay, but I just kind of want to hear, because I miss you guys too, and it's weird. I have to talk so much more in this one because there was so much information to give out, but my goal is to talk less to you guys as we do this online thing and hear more from you guys. So anyone else want to tell me how y'all are doing, how you're doing?
I know I already spoke, but I did want to say that, so for Harris County, I don't know if this is all of Houston, but they're putting the lockdown for everyone, and they're going to have the National Guard. So I'm not excited for that.
Wait, that's different than what because I thought I listened to the conference and it was just a stay-at-home thing. It wasn't a shelter in place.
Oh, I don't know. That's what they've been saying on like all the group me's and all the government officials. And my dad got an email from his office because he's like an in-person, like he can do online as well, but he also has to go in person and check the machines and stuff. He's an engineer, and so he can't go in at all. So there, that's like I'm not.
With the National Guards.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so I'm not excited.
Wait, what did you say?
I knew, my mom told me about a week ago that she heard, like someone she know told her. So I kind of knew this was coming. I just didn't know when.
So from what I saw, and just this morning, it's a stay-at-home, work-from-home thing, but you can still go to the grocery stores. You can still go, you know, take your kids to daycare if you're an essential personnel. And so it's more encouraging to stay at home, but you can still go to the store and things like that.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
That's
okay. Yeah, so we're not going on total lockdown.
You're not on lockdown, you guys. No, definitely go online, check the information about it. We are not. This was like right before your class that they had the mayor and the county judge had the press conference, and they kept it reiterating because they don't want people to panic and start hoarding stuff. Grocery stores are open, even some parks are open too. And so it's really more of a stay at home like directive in that if you can work from home, work from home. They have a list of what's considered essential businesses if you know someone you know who's working isn't sure. But yeah, it's you can still like go to things you need to go to, but they're trying to get people to really take the staying at home more seriously. Yeah. So as far as I know, there's no National Guard thing going on. I did not see that on any of the communication that they've shared, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sorry, the mayor, he tweeted something, I think it was last week, regarding there was apparently a video of some kind of lady saying that she worked for somebody or she knew somebody or somebody had told her that the National Guard was coming and blah, blah, blah. And then they were gonna, Harris County PD had gotten access to the video and they were gonna prosecute the lady because it was not true and she was creating panic and whatnot. But as of right now, it's just stay home and only go out if you extremely need to. I don't know if any of you or your parents need to, but I know the YMCA, because most daycares are closed. I know the YMCA, the facility all the facilities are closed, but they're providing childcare for essential personnel. So if you're in healthcare or you work for grocery stores, you're a first responder and whatnot, they're providing daycare for essential workers.
Yeah, so I think the takeaway is just that if it's someone told me, someone said, I heard somewhere, don't take that seriously. Definitely go on the actual website and get the information from there, because there's just so much panic spreading right now. So yeah. And on that note, y'all stay safe. I will see you guys again on Thursday. We're gonna use Zoom again for our next class. And yeah, it was so good to hear from you guys and see you guys, and we'll get more and more used to and adjusted to this format as we go along. But yeah, great to see y'all. Y'all take care and email me if you have any more questions. Okay, bye guys.